Men once encouraged to initiate conversations now bear the societal burden of being seen as intrusive or worse, potential threats when engaging with women. Personally, I'm fine with living independently, but let's face it, many men are giving up on women, dating, and relationships in the modern world. Fed up with what they consider nonsense, a significant number of men have thrown in the towel. And guess what? Women are waking up to the fact that this might be an unintended consequence of what some call feminist ideals.
If you approach a girl and you try and talk to her and you fail completely, within 30 seconds she's forgotten. You come over and you're awkward and you fuck up and you fall over or something embarrassing, whatever. But 30 seconds later, she's moved on. She's back on Instagram. She doesn't care, right? Yep. She doesn't care. There's bigger problems in the world. So you're just gonna have to bite the bullet. You just have to get your shit together and bite the bullet. Whatever you've been through in your life has yet to kill you. Going over to that bitch and her rejecting you, you won't die. It'll be fine. You'll be okay.
All right, y'all, 4 reasons why this type of guy doesn't approach women anymore. Let's get into it. They don't play games. The type of guy is very direct, not into playing mind games, or deal with women who are playing hard to get, not into wasting their time. But 2, social media, dating game has become more shallow and superficial. This type of guy likes depth. Number 3, this type of guy doesn't like surface level conversation. He likes to have an intellectual exchange. Not too much of that going on today. Number 4, the way women date and approach relationships today completely turns this guy off. This guy is looking for a unicorn and he is not willing to settle until he finds her.
In the good old days, the worst fear was rejection. Now, men feel like they need lawyers and notarized release forms just to say hi to a woman. The fear spans from being pepper sprayed to having the police called or being labeled a predator on social media. Basically, approaching a woman not only feels unwelcoming, but men also know that a simple interaction could lead to their lives being publicly obliterated. The risk-reward equation is out of whack. There's a segment of society painting men as unwelcome predators for social interaction in public. This sentiment often thrives online, occasionally getting reinforced by real-life encounters. Some men may brush it off, but for others, it amplifies insecurities and doubts. And to make things worse, the decline of the community in favor of social media dominance only fuels this fire. Dating, relationships, marriage, family, society, and the economy have all transformed drastically. The rapid evolution of women's roles has left society struggling to catch up. Relationships and marriage, once necessities, are now choices, compromises, and for some, luxuries. We live in an era of unprecedented personal freedom, rendering old rules obsolete. But this lack of rules has brought about a lack of guidance. Both women and men are unsure about what they truly want and what they're supposed to pursue. People are relying on emotionally conflicted logic, and fear has become a dominant factor in decision-making. Women are no longer just seen as assets to be acquired by men, and while that's fine, things are spiraling out of control. Initiating conversations, once a pathway to success, now feels like walking on a tightrope, often treated as a potential offense, with legal consequences looming if you engage with the wrong person. Modern feminism and social justice, while valid, wreak havoc on society and relationships, and the responsibility shouldn't rest solely on women's shoulders. Men are silenced.
Consequences, whether for themselves or potential partners, instill fear, eroding pride and confidence. For men, this means losing aspects that make them attractive, both consciously and unconsciously relinquishing the right to compete in the game of relationships. Love becomes a precarious game, tempting men to abstain, expecting more losses than wins. Cheap alternatives may suffice temporarily, but realization often comes too late. Consider the story of Nora Vincent, who lived as a man for 2 years. Her experiment exposed the difficulties of being a man in society. Approaching women during this time made her dislike their behavior, particularly when men asked them out. Vincent, gaining a newfound appreciation for the privileges of being a woman in Western society, eventually chose medically assisted suicide at 53, suggesting that the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. Reflecting on the late 90s and early 2000s, approaching attractive women boosted confidence. Women handled it well. If uninterested, they kept it brief, and if intrigued, conversations flowed. Today, the landscape is harsher for young men. The challenges of dating apps, coupled with swipe culture, make the process more daunting. A once effective approach might now be deemed creepy. So, welcome to the brave new world of dating, where even saying hello could be a risky venture. Men have been conditioned by society to feel labeled as intrusive or even as potential threats if they engage in conversations with women. Personally, I'm comfortable living independently, so this doesn't bother me. However, a significant number of men have distanced themselves from women, dating, and relationships in the contemporary world. Frustrated by what they perceive as nonsense, many men have chosen to disengage. Women are starting to take notice, and the shift is not to their liking. Ladies, this might be an unintended outcome of what some perceive as feminist ideals. In the past, the primary concern was potential rejection. Now, men feel compelled to bring along lawyers with release forms to be signed and notarized before uttering a simple hi to a woman. The fear encompasses a spectrum, from being pepper sprayed or karate kicked to having the police called on them or being publicly denounced on social media as a predator. In essence, men not only find the idea of approaching a woman less welcoming, but they're acutely aware that such an interaction could lead to their lives being publicly dismantled. The risk-reward equation doesn't add up. A segment of society portrays men as predators unwelcome for social interaction in public. While this sentiment is often perpetuated online, real-life experiences occasionally reinforce it. Some men can shrug this off, but for others, it intensifies their insecurities and doubts. The decline of community in favor of social media dominance exacerbates this phenomenon. Dating, relationships, marriage, family, society, and even the economy have all undergone significant transformations. The rapid evolution of women's roles in the past century has outpaced society's ability to adapt adequately. Relationships and marriage have shifted from necessities to choices, compromises with independent lifestyles, and for some, a luxury. The era we live in offers unprecedented personal freedom and possibilities, rendering long-established rules obsolete. However, this lack of rules has led to a lack of guidance. Both women and men find themselves uncertain about what they truly want and what they are supposed to pursue. People are becoming increasingly self-aware, relying on emotionally conflicted logic rather than following primal instincts without care. Fear has become a dominant factor in decision-making. Women are no longer viewed merely as assets to be acquired by men, and while that's acceptable, the situation is spiraling out of control. Initiating conversations, once a pathway to success, now walks a thin line, often treated as a potential offense, with legal consequences looming if you happen to engage with the wrong person. Extreme modern feminism and the fervor for social justice, while having valid reasons, can wreak havoc on society and relationships between genders. It's a responsibility that shouldn't be solely on women's shoulders. Men find themselves unable to speak up. Consequences, whether for themselves or their potential partners, instill fear, eroding pride and confidence. For men, this means losing aspects that make them attractive, both consciously and unconsciously relinquishing the right to compete in the game of relationships. Expectations soar, and the risk-to-reward balance is skewed. Love becomes a precarious game, making it tempting to abstain from playing, expecting more losses than wins. Cheap alternatives may suffice temporarily, but realization often comes too late. As mentioned before, the story of Nora Vincent, who lived as a man for 2 years. Her experiment exposed the difficulties of being a man in society. Approaching women during this time made her dislike their behavior, particularly when men asked them out. Vincent, gaining a newfound appreciation for the privileges of being a woman in Western society, eventually chose medically assisted suicide at 53, suggesting that the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. Reflecting on the late 90s and early 2000s, approaching attractive women boosted confidence. Women handled it well. If uninterested, they kept it brief, and if intrigued, conversations flowed. Today, the landscape is harsher for young men. The challenges of dating apps, coupled with swipe culture, make the process more daunting. A once effective approach might now be deemed creepy. Cost. And that's it for today on Sigma Traits. Make sure you hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, And don't forget to ring that notification bell so you can be the first to know when my new video drops. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. See you all tomorrow.